In my last life I was hit to death by my cousin just because I refused to lend money to marry him. I was holding the gold bracelet I was going to give to my mother, but when my mother saw my miserable state, the first thing she said was Conger. She must have been scared to death. Passers-by were pitying my miserable death, but my parents wrote a letter of forgiveness to the murderer. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the year when I was 25 years old. I woke up from the desktop and looked at the time on my phone blankly. My mother couldn't wait to call me. Baby, did you get a bonus? Let me save it for you. I hung up the phone without hesitation. As soon as I hung up my mother's phone, my relatives called me one after another. Everyone, my aunt, uncle, and little god, were thinking about my few bonuses. Shimei, your aunt will pay your brother's living expenses right now. It's not much, just 8,000 yuan. Can you lend it to your aunt first? I'll pay you back next month when she gets paid. This is my mother's sister. My mother has always been obedient to her since she was a child. As long as my aunt or cousin wants something, my mother will give it to them without hesitation. She always told me that my aunt is her only sister, and you can't care so much about helping relatives. So for so many years, my aunt has never paid back a penny of the money she borrowed from our family. I typed a line of words, sent it out, and then stopped looking at my phone. When I got home, my mother had bombarded dozens of calls in a row. When she saw me enter the door, she scolded me. Shimei, you are too strong, right? You have just started working for a short time, and you dare to hang up your mother's phone. Where is your bonus? Call me quickly. Didn't we agree that you will support us in our old age when you work in the future? Should I support you or those vampires in your family? What are you talking about? Vampires, that's your aunt. I sneered. I don't have an aunt. From today on, I can't give you a penny. If you still want to support them, you can earn money to support these bloodbags. Whoever wants to be the one can be the one. Perhaps I didn't expect that I would dare to resist him. My mother didn't react, so I bypassed him and went into the house to pack up. My room has everyone's things. It's said that it's a room prepared for me, but any relative in the family has lived there longer than me. When my cousin comes to my house, I, as an elder sister, have to give him a room. When my cousin from my uncle's family comes to visit, he smokes in my room and doesn't treat himself as an outsider at all. Even my mother's elementary school classmates can easily occupy my room when they come to visit. I threw my cousin's toys to the ground and smashed them to pieces, threw my cousin's tattered clothes out of the door one by one, and threw the inferior lipstick of the strange aunt directly into the trash can. Mom let out a long scream, clenched her fists and stomped her foot on the ground several times. Little ungrateful wolf, you want to die? What are you doing here again? I didn't even turn my head back, raised my foot and kicked the door. I didn't want to do this a long time ago. Why should I let this be done in my own room? Why should all the money I earn be given to others to control? Why can they lie on me with peace of mind and suck my blood to death? I have figured everything out. Since they love their relatives so much, then live a good life with their relatives. Not long after, my father came back. After his investment failed, he lost the courage to make a comeback and has been doing hard labor outside. He didn't spend much of the money he earned. He lost it all by playing cards with his brothers. He lost 10,000 or 20,000 yuan in one night. He was not allowed to leave the table. Whoever left couldn't afford to lose. I was still young at that time. I asked loudly, last time my second uncle lost 200 yuan. He also threw down the cards and left. Everyone looked at each other. Finally, someone pulled me aside rudely and then pulled my father to the card table. What do children know? Your second uncle had something wrong at home that time. My father didn't have a high level of education. He didn't go to school until junior high school, but he was lucky. He met a master in his early years, who took him to learn cooking skills and set up a stall and opened a store, accumulating a small amount of money. Later, the relatives were jealous and begged my father to teach them how to open a restaurant to make money. Teach the apprentice and starve the master. Our family store didn't open for long before it was transferred by relatives using both soft and hard methods. My parents took that little savings and returned to the countryside to build a house for their retirement, but they couldn't keep that little savings in the end. When I was 10 years old, my aunt and her husband coveted my parents' savings and tricked them into investing in a fireworks factory. Not only did they lose all their savings, but they also guaranteed a loan of 500,000 yuan for my aunt. My aunt ran away, but my parents dragged me along and worked hard to pay off the debt. When the debt was cleared, my aunt ran back and hugged my mother's legs and cried, "Sister, I didn't mean it at the beginning. You also know that your nephew still has to go to school. I was really forced to do it. Now it's okay. Our two families will help each other in the future." I heard a few yin and yang words from the side. When you have money, you have your sister, and when you don't have money, you don't have your sister. My mother slapped me in the face. That's how your aunt talks. She has no respect for her elders. She had completely forgotten how she had survived all those years. When her aunt cried for a few words, she hurriedly handed her the money. In the past, I always wanted to correct their ideas, but now I just want to take care of myself and respect the fate of others, even if they are my parents. My dad kicked the door roughly, and the fragile door lock was soon kicked down by him. He stared at me viciously and said, "You're grown up now, so you don't want this family anymore, right?" I replied indifferently, "Didn't you want it a long time ago?" I didn't care about them at all and went to the kitchen to get something casually. After dinner, I took out a box of strawberries from the bag I brought back and washed them all with a plate. My mother's gloomy face changed from the moment she saw the strawberries. I knew that Shimei was still good. I knew that your aunt liked to eat strawberries the most. Mom will give them to your aunt and them now. As she said that, she was about to take the strawberries from my hand, and I walked around her as if no one was around. Chan Shimei's hands fell empty, her face changed, and then she shouted my name loudly, and the neighbors all heard the noise. An auntie poked her head out. "Oh, what's going on again?" My mother seemed to have found an ally, and hurriedly told me about my refusal to lend money to pay my cousin's tuition, and said, "Xiaoyu sister, your Shimei is so obedient, if you have anything just talk to her. She will understand you." I threw a strawberry into my mouth. "There is nothing to say, I don't have money, and I won't give you my life." The auntie who poked her head out, her face suddenly became embarrassed. "She is your aunt. Your own family, what's wrong with lending you money? I think you have read too much and become stupid, a good girl. But you are obsessed with money, you are right. I remember your sister-in-law came to borrow money last month. Didn't you two have a quarrel? Otherwise I will call for you now and ask her to come and get the money." "You dead girl, you liar, what nonsense are you talking about? When did I say I wanted to lend her money?" The auntie's eyebrows suddenly stood up, saliva splashed. "You didn't say that, we are family, what's wrong with borrowing it?" Her face flushed and she slammed the door shut. You see, even Aunt Wang, who has never been to school, knows that money should be saved for herself first. I got up early the next day and went to the street to do some shopping. I still remember when I was young I went to the supermarket with my parents, and there was never anything belonging to me in the shopping cart. The beautiful little skirt hanging on the wall was to be bought for my cousin from my third uncle's family. The new toys in the toy cabinet were to be bought for the selfish brother from my aunt's family, and even the small bag of potato chips that I secretly put into the shopping cart would eventually be given to the fat boy from the next door neighbor's family. This time I brought everything I liked, including clothes, shoes, bags, skincare products, and jewelry. As long as they were within the balance, I swiped my card to buy them all. I didn't stop until I received the last text message reminder. I didn't dare to look at these things before. My clothes have always been worn by my cousin. I didn't want any. I had never had any toys of my own since I was a child. Even the computer and mobile phone I needed for school were second-hand ones discarded by my cousins. Even though I earned the money later subconsciously, I still felt that I didn't deserve such good things. I made a lot of purchases outside. As long as my wallet allowed, I bought everything without blinking and had them delivered to my home. When I got home, the aunt from yesterday saw me from a distance and ran away. As soon as I entered the house, I saw my aunt sitting on the sofa in my house. I washed a large basin of strawberries I bought yesterday and put them on the table. My cousin Xie ate them with a pink mouth. The moment I saw him, I could hardly control my emotions. In my previous life, I was hit to death by him because I didn't lend him money. On my birthday, he drove the car I bought with my own money and knocked me 10 meters away. I was still holding the gold bracelet that I wanted to give to my mother, and I was eating a lot of I spit out big mouthfuls of blood and saw him get out of the car. My eyes widened and I reached out to grab his clothes, trying to beg him to save me. I was still young and didn't want to die. He kicked my hand away, got back into the car and drove over me repeatedly. "I told you to buy a house, I told you to buy a house, and a money loser wanted to buy a house. Now I'm going to see what kind of house you can buy after you die." My blood flowed all over the ground, dyeing the wheels red, and my organs stuck to the ground. The forensic doctor who came last could only use a shovel to collect my body, but when my mother saw my miserable condition, the first thing she said was, "Art Conger." She must have been scared to death. Xie Song's motive and chain of evidence were very complete, and sentencing was certain. My mother was more worried than my aunt, and tried every means to help Xie Song get rid of the crime. She also asked my father to write a letter of forgiveness to Xie Song, just asking him to get fewer years in prison. Xie Song was released after only 5 years. Your mother said it was my fault that he didn't get married, and also put him in jail, ruining his life. My mother must be responsible. My mother felt guilty to death. She also took out all the compensation from the insurance company after my death, and gave it to Xie Song. The first thing Xie Song did when he got the money was to go to my grave and kick over my tombstone. The compensation guy was dead and wanted to hurt me. I saw my mother following him, but she had no intention of stepping forward to stop him. In a white light, I went back to my aunt and asked my mother for money for tuition. My thoughts changed. I looked at the childish face in front of me, and just wanted her to have a taste of being repeatedly crushed by the wheels. My aunt saw me first. When she saw that I was carrying a lot of things in my hands, she came up to me with a smile on her face. "Our Shimei is really filial. She even bought a few kilograms of bracelets for your mother. My girl is so old, but she hasn't even given me a grain of rice. Didn't my mother spend money to buy out the relationship for you? Why did they do that? How filial I am to you." The smile on my aunt's face was suddenly embarrassed. When she was young, she was in love and insisted on following a man. After giving birth to a child, she disliked the hard life and abandoned the child to go to my mother. The man brought the child to the door and insisted that she go back to raise the child. My aunt hid behind my mother, and let the man ask my mother for a large sum of money. She never mentioned the child again afterwards. At that time my cousin was already 6 years old. My cousin only said one sentence: "My mother died a long time ago." My cousin is smarter than me. Some rotten meat should have been dug out long ago. My aunt squeaked for a long time, and I had already bypassed her and went into the room to put the things away. I snatched the strawberry from my cousin's mouth and poured it all into the trash can. I held his head tightly and put it in the trash can saying, "Eat, eat more." Before he could react, my whole head had been pressed into the trash can by me and he couldn't move. At this time, Xieshirtsong was still very thin and small. He was no match for me in terms of strength. I grabbed his head. He struggled with his hands. "Hey Chan Shimei, what are you doing?" I suddenly went crazy. Even my aunt hadn't reacted yet. My mother rushed over first and pushed me away, quickly hugged me in her arms, pointed at my nose and cursed, "Are you crazy? From yesterday to today you have been sarcastic, and you even dared to hit your cousin. If you don't like this family, just get out and never come back. It's not just eating a few of your strawberries. I want your life," I sneered. "It's not my life. Now eat my strawberries, drink my blood in the future, and eat my flesh after you die as you wish. I'm leaving now. I wish your family of 6 live in harmony and happiness." I didn't hesitate at all. Immediately took out my mobile phone to call. "Moving company, yes, it's me. Move now." Before leaving this morning, I made an appointment with a moving company. This house was bought by my parents a few years ago. My family asked me to work in this city after graduation, so I haven't left home. I moved out of the house, and any things I kept at home that my relatives could use would always be quietly given away by my mother without my knowledge. After I made a fuss a few times, people called me ungrateful and petty. Later, less than 2 days after I locked the door, my father had someone remove it. His reason was that you have to install a lock in your own home. Are you protecting your parents? They have raised you in vain. They were merciful and said that if you want to install a lock, you must also give them a key. I had no choice but to do it. The moving company came soon. My aunt thought I was just scaring them just like before. As long as my mother cried and complained, I would immediately soften my heart and lower my head. When the moving company really cleaned up the things and I was about to close the door and leave, he got a little panicked and quickly grabbed me, saying that we are a family. Why make things so awkward? If you like strawberries, your aunt will buy you more. Your cousin is still young, don't I didn't care about them. Glanced at my cousin who was staring at me angrily. My father and mother who didn't say a word, pushed my aunt's hand away and smiled easily. "You are the family. There are almost no things in your home that belong to me. There are not even as many things as in the company dormitory, plus the large pile of things I bought today, which are not enough to fill half of the moving company's car." Until I got in the car, my mother finally couldn't help but speak. "If you leave this community gate today, don't recognize me as your mother." I rolled up the window. "Payancia." My aunt originally wanted to use both soft and hard tactics to get money from me. His child goes to a private school, and our family saves money to be his blood bag. But my parents still think that the relationship between relatives is harmonious. Of course it is harmonious. Whoever raises me like his parents, I will be harmonious with him. What's more, my father subsidizes his brothers, and he is not much weaker than my mother. It's true that 2 people can sleep in the same bed. My aunt and my little aunt, originally they disliked each other. They all felt that the other had taken too many benefits from my family, resulting in them getting less advantages. But after I left home, the 2 of them united together. First, they spread rumors that I was unfilial, trying to force me to go home and admit my mistakes. Seeing that I didn't move, they simply joined forces with my mother to make trouble at the workplace. "She may come out. Mom and Dad are not young anymore, and you are their only daughter. How can you bear to ignore these 2 old people? You didn't go home these few days and your mother became sick from anger. If your cousin hadn't gone to see her, who knows what would have happened? There's no overnight grudge among family members. Let's go home and talk it over." The previous long string was performed by my younger aunt. My aunt couldn't help but add, "And your cousin. These days your cousin goes to help take care of your parents every day. We are all relatives, so we should help each other." I was organizing my work when my colleague came to call me. There were already quite a few people outside. Their eyes were moving between me and my aunt, and their expressions were a little complicated. I saw my mother following behind my aunt at a glance. She watched her good sister and sister-in-law throwing dirty water on me, and she was watching beside her without saying a word for me. In fact, I had been mentally prepared for a long time, but I still felt a little chilled. I still couldn't understand why he could be so good to everyone, but seemed to care nothing about me. They said to me, "Don't you have anything to explain?" I asked him. My mother avoided my gaze guiltily and deliberately raised her voice to prove that she was right. "What your aunt and the others said was also true. Shimei, it was not easy for your mother to raise you. It was not easy." I took over the conversation before she finished. My aunt thought I said I was going to give in, and she grinned and was about to step forward immediately. I went on to say that in order to take care of my aunt giving birth, you threw me to my grandfather when I was 2 years old. You took me in when I was in elementary school. The clothes I wore were all rotten, and I had so many lice on my head that I had to shave it bald. You took me in so that I could take care of your son for my aunt. I never paid tuition from elementary school to junior high school. I went home every day to help you with the housework. You were reluctant to hire me in the middle of winter. You thought it was a waste of gas to help in the kitchen to boil water. I washed vegetables until my hands were covered with frostbite. I was admitted to a key high school, but you changed my application to a town school for money. When I went to college after high school, you took tens of thousands of yuan in gifts and didn't give me a penny. You made me take out loans to go to school and work to earn my living expenses. After graduation, I worked hard to save money to pay off the loans, and I used the little money I had to buy things for you so that you could live a better life. You gave the money to Xia Xiaoqi's son to go to a private school, and cried to me that I had no money to eat. It was not easy for you to raise me, Aunt Xia. I said it all in one breath, wanting to say all the injustices over the years. After saying that, I stared at my mother without blinking, wanting to hear even a little bit of guilt from her. When she saw my face flushed, she said that it was your aunt's child and your biological brother. How could your relative be someone else's child? I felt like a basin of cold water was poured through my heart. In that case, then I wish your family happiness. You don't need a daughter and I don't need a mother. The town is not big, and the news of my falling out with my family spread quickly. All the relatives, big and small, came to persuade me. After all, she is my biological mother, and we are family. I didn't see any of them. When they came that day, I had actually submitted my resignation. My original plan was to go south. If my mother hadn't stopped me, I would never have stayed here. In my previous life, I was a blood bag for a lifetime. In this life, even if I throw money into the water, he can't hear it. Seeshirtsong goes to a private school, and the living expenses for one semester in school are 8,000 yuan. Naturally, they can't afford it with just the salary of my aunt and her family, but fortunately there are 3 blood bags in my family, and 5 people supporting one person, so of course we can afford it. My family's biggest source of income is me, and if I am cut off now, it would be more painful than taking their lives. Moreover, I know that Seeshirtsong will meet a girl in this school, and his subsequent spending of money is all for this girl. I plan to give them money, but I do have to help Seeshirtsong continue to go to school. After all, if he doesn't continue to go to school, the subsequent drama will be difficult to perform. The teachers in that private school have some preferential places, and a friend of mine teaches there. I found him and asked him to help get Seeshirtsong on the preferential list. Your mother brags to everyone about how smart and capable Seeshirtsong is, and that private schools are willing to waive his tuition and miscellaneous fees. My mother was so happy that she even took out the big red envelope I gave him during the Chinese New Year as a reward to him, Seeshirtsong. When the news reached my ears, I had successfully joined the new company. My father called me and told me about it, complaining in his words and deeds, saying that the money I gave my mother was wasted. I listened to him quietly without saying anything. When he couldn't continue, I asked him, "What do you want the money for this time?" He hesitated for a long time and said, "I don't want the money. Your grandfather passed away. It is reasonable that each family should give 10,000 yuan. The money is in your mother's hands. If you don't give, Shime's father will be laughed at." The grandfather he mentioned is his stepfather. When I was young, they threw me to my grandfather. When I was young, I loved to run around in the mountains. Once I accidentally ran into his watermelon field and was caught by him. I was beaten and thrown into the cellar. My eyes were almost blinded by branches. I was locked in the cellar for a day before I was taken to the mountains to dig wild vegetables. The aunt found out. When I was young, I had no ability to resist. I didn't tell this matter until I grew up. I will not go to my grandfather's house for New Year's greetings in the future. My dad couldn't persuade me, so he had to agree. He knew that I held a grudge about this matter, but no one seemed to care. I whispered into the microphone and said, "I'll give you the money, and you give me the household registration book." He said yes without hesitation. "Dad knew that you were the most filial child." So before hanging up, I added, "I don't have a father." I thought they would be more aware of it, and then I found that I was overthinking it. Sometimes I hate them very much. If they are bad to me to the end, I can still feel at ease and cut off relations with them. They don't ignore me completely. For example, when it's cold in winter, I call my mother and tell her that I'm cold, and she will still buy me something warm. The shoes were sent to me. Besides, the little girl next door only had a pair of rubber shoes in the middle of winter and was shivering with cold, while my feet were warm and I was sweating. Compared with her, I seem to have received some love, but more often, they kept scraping off the flesh and blood from my body and feeding it to others. My mother said that was his sister and his relative, and my father said that was his brother and was related to him by blood. I also wanted to ask, am I not your child? It's funny. Before leaving my hometown, I secretly took their hair to do a paternity test. The results showed that I was indeed their biological child. My father got money from me, and my mother wanted to do the same. I just replied lightly, "Grandma, he died a long time ago, but Grandpa is still alive and well. How much money do you want?" He hung up the phone awkwardly. Without my help, the 4 of them worked hard for Seeshirtsong. My mother went out to clean for others, my father went out to work as a doorman for others, and my aunt and her family found a cafeteria waiter at Seeshirtsong's school to look after him every day. A friend told me that Seeshirtsong was having a hot affair with a girl in the school recently and spent a lot of money. I understood it in my heart. He was like this in his previous life, using money to support that girl. Because of my support, he lived a very comfortable life. It was not until he graduated from junior college and talked about marriage that he revealed his true face in front of me. Now, the family has lost me the biggest economic source. The source, his lazy and greedy parents, definitely can't satisfy him. My parents are not young anymore and can only take some odd jobs, and they can't support his consumption. Seeshirtsong took the gold jewelry hidden by my mother to sell. My mother didn't know and called the police. In order not to leave a bad influence on Seeshirtsong, he said everywhere that he remembered it wrong. Even so, he was blamed by my aunt's family for a long time, and he couldn't even get those gold jewelry back. My mother got my phone number through some means and cried pitifully on the phone. The matter of me losing the gold jewelry was told by Aunt Queen next door. Your aunt's family blames me now. Does that girl refuse to associate with your brother? I don't know. He has a girlfriend. He told her earlier. Tell me, would you not give it to him? You didn't let mom know. You gave your dad 10,000 yuan, but dad didn't give mom half of it. Can you? You can't. I rejected him coldly. Isn't this all your own fault? You took someone else's son into your home and raised him as your own child. He always came to you when something happened. If you have something to do, others will run away faster than anything else. So you should help more and don't come to me. Except for the alimony stipulated by the law, you don't have to think about getting a penny from me. Even if I die, you won't have a share of the inheritance. I was too lazy to listen to him and hung up neatly. He chose the phone himself, so he can't blame others. Without my help, He took out half of his own pension money as a favor. Xie Shirtsong's compensation barely won back a little bit of good face, but this family's appetite grew bigger and bigger. Xie Shirtsong didn't even take the college entrance examination and brought the girl home. The girl got pregnant and asked them to either buy a house and get married or abort the child and break up. Naturally, my mother readily agreed to help, and my father's side was not much better. My eldest uncle's daughter eloped and gave birth to a child. She wanted to leave but couldn't. The man demanded 50,000 yuan before he would let her go. My second uncle's cousin refused to go to school and insisted on pursuing true love with a woman who was more than 10 years older than him. My third uncle's cousin had failed in several blind dates and wanted to borrow a house from my father to get married first. A bunch of people pounced on them like leeches. It's not like they haven't set their sights on me before. Last time after my mom called me, I changed all my contact information, except for a few good friends. I didn't reveal any of my so-called relatives from my hometown. My parents, who like to help their relatives, discussed for a month and finally decided to sell the house and use the money to help several relatives. Xie Shirtsong got the most. My mom gave him half of the money, and my dad's relatives divided the money equally. There were many complaints that my dad couldn't even control a woman. Even so, they were still very happy because they maintained blood ties. Others praised them for being good people, but they didn't realize that since they moved into the rental house, the nephews and nieces who had been helped by them were no longer. I have never been to my hometown, but I still worked hard. My life, except for occasionally hearing about the chaos in my hometown, is to work hard to make money. Even my boss doesn't know why I work so hard. Only I know that I want to have my own home. I went back to my hometown for the purpose of handling documents. On that familiar street, I saw two hunchbacked old people. My friend came with me to do the business. Seeing this, he couldn't help asking me, "Do you plan to bring your parents over when you come back this time?" I think they seem to regret it. They won't regret it. Even if they regret it, it's because they don't have more blood to suck for their relatives. My friend was very surprised and said, "It's impossible. Do you think too badly of your parents? After all, they are your biological parents. During the Chinese New Year, they came to my house to inquire about you, saying that they really missed you and wanted to invite you to come home to see them." I didn't comment. Not long after, a familiar person appeared on the street. I knew at a glance that it was Xie Shirtsong. He came alone. My friend said that the girl was not pregnant at all, and she just came to the school to tease people. She didn't expect to meet a useless person like Xie Shirtsong, who ran away after getting the betrothal money. I knew all these things without him saying them. I didn't want to help him in my previous life. One reason was that I really needed money myself, and the other was that I had known for a long time who that girl was. I advised Xie Shirtsong not to waste his efforts, but unfortunately he didn't listen. It was hard to persuade him with good words. Damn ghost, he and I were both on the street. There were not many people around. I saw Xie Shirtsong snatch the broom from my mother's hand, throw it on the ground and yell wildly. I didn't know what he was saying, but I could see the embarrassment and helplessness on my mother's face. Then he fumbled out a small cloth bag from his pocket. I have good eyesight and saw that it was a stack of colorful money. He seemed to be planning to count out a few bills to him, but Xie Shirtsong snatched the cloth bag, turned around and ran to the other side. He immediately wanted to chase him, but fell to the ground before he had gone far. Xie Shirtsong didn't even turn his head to look at his friends. He widened his eyes and asked, "He is robbing me, right? Do you want to help call the police?" He laughed foolishly. "Why call the police?" He is afraid that it will affect the reputation of his good nephew. I stayed in my hometown for a few days. I don't know if he did it on purpose. Was it the heavy makeup that worked? Or was it that I had changed so much over the years that none of these relatives recognized me? Even when I was standing at their doorstep watching a show, no one knew it was me. Xie Shirtsong took away my parents' newly paid salary, and they couldn't even pay the water and electricity bills, so they were kicked out by the landlord and their belongings were thrown all over the floor. A quick glance showed that they were all junk. I heard my dad call my cousin and say that he wanted to stay at his place for a while. The speaker of his old cell phone was loud enough that passersby could hear it clearly. It's not that your uncle doesn't want to help you. It's really that your niece's wife's parents are here, and your family has to squeeze in. Your uncle and your aunt can sleep in the living room, and we'll move out after we get paid next month. We won't cause you any trouble. Didn't you say that your uncle is a good cook? Uncle will cook for you. No, you are my uncle. How can I let you sleep in the living room? Wait for me to think of a way. I'll contact you later. The phone beeped twice and then hung up. When I called again, it was busy. My mother's line didn't get through at all. They waited from day to night, but their dear nephews and nieces didn't come. I heard them comforting each other. It should be because they were too busy at work. Yes, young people are busy now. They probably forgot because of their busyness. Otherwise, we will just make do on the main road for the night and don't trouble the children. Lele looked at the two people with hunched backs. I didn't know what I felt in my heart. Should I be glad that the children they were counting on were not me? We are old, not as strong as we were when we were young. After a night of cold wind, we soon developed a high fever and were sent to the hospital by passersby. I was a little confused at the time. The moment my parents heard my name, they became unusually energetic. "You little ungrateful thing, you heartless thing, how dare you come back? You might as well watch your parents die." I looked at them in confusion. It was obvious that not long ago, they had forgiven their indifferent cousins. Why did they become so harsh when it was my turn? I couldn't help but ask, and my mother looked at me as if I were an enemy. "Your cousin is the only root of the Xie family. If your father and I die, you still want your cousin to smash the pot. If you are not nice to them, what will happen when we die in the future? You are my child, yours. Everything is mine. Taking a few things from you is nothing. If a daughter doesn't help her brothers, she shouldn't be allowed to go to school. You've made her brain stupid and raised an ungrateful child. When I heard the reason, I couldn't help laughing out loud. How ridiculous. I have wronged myself for so many years, just for a small matter after death. Even my life is nothing compared to their so-called posthumous pot smashing. My father said nothing with a sullen face, but he didn't refute my mother. I looked at their resentful eyes and suddenly didn't want to say anything. I picked up the health products I bought on the way, and gave them to the eldest sister in the next bed. It would be a waste to throw away these things, and if you don't mind, you can keep them for yourself. I turned and left, ignoring the curses behind me. The eldest sister of Dongshi made a poo sound and joked with the people around her, saying that she had never seen anyone so stupid. You shouldn't spend money to raise your own daughter. What do you know about other people's children? They are the boys who can see us off to the grave. When we die, no one will keep vigil over us and we will be laughed at by others. The eldest sister laughed even louder. I think you are a joke now. I have never been back to that place, but I heard from others that they still didn't get to visit from their nephews and nieces. Even the funeral was arranged by a distant cousin from my family. I gave my cousin a small sum of money, but I didn't go back. My cousin said that my cousin and my younger cousin didn't show up, and both sides wouldn't allow them to be buried in their own ancestral tomb, and my cousin had no choice. They could only find a vacant lot on the mountain and dug a grave. I said I didn't care. Not long after they were buried, Xie was imprisoned for intentional homicide, and my aunt and uncle were imprisoned for covering up the crime. He used my parents' money to look for her everywhere, and finally found the girl who ran away, only to find that she had married someone else and had a child. He rushed into someone else's house in a rage and hacked people around. When the verdict came out, I moved into my own home. In this life, I finally have a home that truly belongs to me. I no longer have to humbly desire for love, because I can give myself that comfort with all of these. My swamp seemed to have finally been peeled off from me. In this life, I finally found the answer. You owe no one, just live for yourself. The whole text is over.